Welcome one, welcome all to episode 163 of the Xbox Expansion Pass, recorded on Saturday, February 4th, 2023. I'm your host, Luke Lohr, the InsipidGhost, joined by my co-host, the intrepid Captain Logan. In this episode, we discuss the slew of live service titles that are shutting down this year. Titanfall 3 dreams appear to be dashed, and Halo Infinite's plagued existence continues as rumors of an engine change appear to be confirmed with Unreal Engine on the docket. As always, we hope you enjoy. Now, Logan, we like to start the show by offering words of kindness to those who have made our gaming weeks better. And this week, I think it's fair to say we have plenty of words of kindness to offer, thanks to our new segment. But first, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing good. I'm having a really good week. This is a week of news, man, but we're going to be talking about that. But I'm really happy that we actually kicked off the Patreon, and we've got a whole bunch of stuff that people are jumping onto to discuss. But yeah, I agree. As far as like words of kindness, I think we got to jump right into the Patreons, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. We talked about it on last week's episode. We've now got our Patreon launch, patreon.com/Xbox Expansion Pass, for people that want to support the show. They're at 3 tiers, all with a skew and eye towards supporting XEP, helping us keep everything ad free, but really just continue to do our upgrades, be it Zencaster software, editing software, the ability to get new interviews on the show, which shout out, we had the Hi-Fi Rush devs on, pretty dope. A lot of great people jumping in, and if they couldn't jump into our Patreon, they were sharing it on socials. Lots of words of kindness, but I think that leads us to our new segment.
Yeah, I think it does too. So we have some new patrons, and we're going to be shouting them out. So at the start, we're going to be talking about all the patrons that joined up for the first time right off of launch. And then as we move into the future episodes, we'll be announcing any new patrons that join us. Not to say that we don't love all of you, because we do, except for, well, yeah. Well, I mean, he's not technically a patron, but I guess if Joe decided to ever support, something other than himself, he would, we would be able to, we'd be able to call his name out.
Yeah, but I would not want to, just to be clear.
That's fair.
He's ugly. He smells funny. I just don't know. Yeah. So yeah, like Logan said, we're gonna shout out any new patrons that subscribed during the week prior. I broke Logan on that one. And then of course, if you're a tier 2 or tier 3 patron, then you'll get a weekly shout out as well. But this week we are celebrating everybody that was so kind as to subscribe to our Patreon. So strap in, new Patreon members. Here they are: Mr. Todd Oxtra, Kevin Ainsworth, John Wall, Mr. Court Lalonde, Captain Logan, Matt Without Fear, the Lord James Suddy, Brendan Myers, a.k.a. the Winter Gamer, Kevin Butler, not the Vice President of Sony, Mr. Clint Coombs, and DJ Hero. Thank you all for subscribing to us on Patreon. You guys are amazing.
Thank you guys so much. And we're also going to be shouting out the tier 3 ones, as I recall.
Yep.
Can I roll with it?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Matt Without Fear, the Lord James Suddy, Brendan Myers, a.k.a. the Winter Gamer, Kevin Butler, Clint Combs, and DJ Hero, all tier 3 for the Xbox wrap-up.
And tier 2. Some of them are tier 2.
Oh, and tier 2. And tier 2.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, we're figuring it out. We're going. We're kicking.
We're going to have fun with it.
It is. Talk about the Xbox wrap-up, though, because that is a tier 3 exclusive that we're going to do at the end of each month. Tell us about that.
So we're going to be doing a Patreon exclusive. This is a Luke idea. He decided he wanted to help honor the show that I used to do, which was the Xbox wrap up. And it's going to be kind of a general wrap up of anything and everything. At the end of the month, we're going to be sitting down to record, just kind of chatting and having fun. So if it didn't get covered in XEP, or if there's something adjacent in the gaming industry that we wanted to talk about, we're kind of keeping it pretty open, because we figure there's a lot of other stuff that everyone else is celebrating that is not just Xbox. And this is a really good place for us to kind of say, like, hey, we want you to feel like you're involved in the same conversations that we're having on a day-to-day basis. This is going to be our way to kind of bring you into the conversation as well too. So we'll be recording those at the end of the month, and then those will go out for patrons so that folks, if you wanted to get more thoughts on maybe what we're playing outside of Xbox, or TV shows that we're watching, movies, we could talk about, like Halo Master Chief and what could, the TV show be doing that The Last of Us, stuff like that. So that's going to be coming for the patrons that are signed up for those tiers. And that way, at least folks can kind of stay, have something a little extra that you weren't necessarily anticipating, or maybe you were anticipating it. I don't know.
And that's the key, extra. Nothing that was XCP standard is going away. Everything's still there for everybody. This is just a special thing for those tier subscribers. And if there are things that we should change in the Patreon, as this is kind of a living and new thing for us, if that show should be for 2 tiers or for 1 tier, talk to us, let us know, give us feedback, because that helps us get better. And that's honestly the goal. So there we go.
Definitely. And again, thank you for the idea, because I was really surprised when you hit me up and was like, hey, you want to do a Patreon episode that's called the Xbox Wrap Up? And I was like, oh my God, that's brilliant. Once a month, it's funny. But yeah, I like it.
It works, man. And you had a great show. And I know how hard it is to do a solo show. So bringing it back gives us a chance to celebrate both. So I'm stoked for that.
It's like Office Max and Office Depot. Neither of them actually want to change the name to the other one, but they're just going to sit next to each other and be awkward.
What a weird comparison. What a weird one. And all I do is go to the episode of The Office where Dwight works for Office Max. That's all I do when you say that. That's great. That's great. Well, look, thank you to everybody that shared out the Patreon, that subscribed, et cetera, et cetera. That was a big moment for us, something I was scared to do. And I'm grateful, because it's cool to get to read your names now. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, man. So, Logan, like we said, another big week of news, kind of finishing off an incredible month in January. Yeah. It's like we had something every week, which was pretty darn crazy. Before we get to those things, I want to point people in the direction of an interview posted on both our podcast feeds and on a separate playlist for YouTube. Had the Hi-Fi Rush director, John Johannes, on for an interview. That was pretty darn incredible. So if you're liking Hi-Fi Rush or you want to hear that interview, go check that out. Really proud of that one. And we've got another interview already recorded with Shoulders of Giants. It's an indie Xbox exclusive that'll come out next week or this week, time of this recording. And we've got 4 or 5 more kind of in queue if we can get those to go through, which we're really excited about. Things are popping off, man.
Yeah. Yeah. And oh man, can we talk a little? I know it's not really on the docket, but can we talk about on Shoulders of Giants for a sec?
Yeah, let's do it, man. Sure.
Oh man. So I popped that on last night because I wanted to jump in and kind of see like what it was about and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. First thing I got to say, the tutorial is great because it does that thing where it gives you all the powers and then it lets you kind of play around and have some fun with a little bar to get over. And then once you're done, you get into the actual game. But dude, this is like a weird alternate universe where Star Fox moves into a totally different territory and goes with a totally completely different play style. But I could definitely see at a certain point this game was what I think Star Fox Zero was shooting for if they wanted to have the Land Rover with the little chicken legs that you run around on. But I really like this game. This game does a really fun job of giving you action and mobility and just changing things up, especially with the abilities. But I was really impressed. It's a good little game, man.
It is. It's a really fun indie title. When I talk to with indie devs, they carry a bunch of different roles and hats. He's the president of their company, but obviously he's developing as well.
Also cleans the toilets.
Yeah. Patrick McAvena. He's super great dude, but he was talking about scope and scale and how that was difficult for the team to manage because they wanted to do all these things. They had to scale back. One of the things I noticed in playing it before it went live, and this is funny, and I'll explain it. It's all the dialogue is text-based, right? And there's no sound for that, or at least there wasn't when I was playing it. And then they patched it in. And so during the interview, I was like, I noticed there's no voice acting. Was that a thing about scope and scale? I was asking about that. And he's like, well, now there is. I don't know when the last time you played it was. And I was like, yesterday. But because I played it on quick resume, it hadn't updated the file, right? So I was like, well, okay, cool. So like little gibberish, kind of similar to Star Fox. And it was neat to hear the scope and scale, because you're right. It feels like the ground segments of a Star Fox game. In some ways, but it's this roguelite procedural generated mech battle game with your frog on top of a mech, like weird fun. I know. It's zany, you know.
It's so, like, if you guys don't know, you get to run around in this giant mech, and the mech has a lightsaber, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
And you can zoom, you can spin. There's like some really good abilities that give you like the ability to absorb damage and turn that into health. But then you get like your little frog on top of the mech that's actually piloting it, and it's like what I imagine is a weird, like, I don't know if anyone's played Overwatch, but there's like the hamster in the robot, and then there's the little hamster. It's like, imagine if the little hamster popped out of a little ball at some point and started blasting people with a gun, and you're like, oh, this is awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've had a really good time with it. That's a cute game.
It's a fun one. And I will save this for the interview, but I'll tease it a little bit. One of the things I asked, which is something I asked the We Are the Caretakers dev as well, and the Sailforth dev, because those are all Xbox exclusives. Well, Sailforth may not be, but you're this Xbox exclusive indie. Why are you not on Game Pass? And I asked him that, and that led to a really interesting answer, as it did with We Are the Caretakers. So listen for that one, because that was fascinating to hear his answer. Yeah, interesting there. Devs want to be on there. Let's put it that way. So, Shoulders of Giants, fun indie title, worth a pickup. I think it's one of those games that's got content coming. They're doing a roadmap, but I enjoyed my time with it as well.
Yeah, so definitely. And you just put out the interview for Hi-Fi Rush, and it was really surprising to have that get shadow dropped, because I think we finally got reviews for it, huh?
Yes, we did. Because it was shadow dropped, people didn't have their hands on it. Not even media knew it was happening. Even like the top tier, they didn't have access to it, at least based on what I understand. They've all had time to play. Reviews are now out, which is pretty darn incredible. And this Xbox exclusive title is landing 9s and 10s all over the place. Kind of funny. Give it 5 out of 5. Forbes 9.5. Gaming Bolt 9. IGN 9. GameSpot 9. Games Radar 8. Their Metacritic for Hi-Fi Rush, again, Xbox exclusive first party game, 89, OpenCritic 90. They shadow dropped a top tier game that is, after I've played more of it, because I played it in prep for the interview, and I played it more since we had our last episode, and I've gotten better at it. I'm really enjoying it. Yeah, I'm thinking this game is absolutely game of the year conversation worthy for sure. Obviously it's January, February, but I love it. I'm loving it.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I was ribbing with Xbox Game Pass on Twitter the other day, because they were talking about like Chai and stuff, and I was talking about how he was like, he was getting a big head and whatnot, and I'm like, that's okay, Peppermint will keep him in line. And it's a really good game. They did exactly what I think, like, in my mind, this is the type of game that I would have loved to have seen on like the Dreamcast or the N64. Like, it is a perfect short action game that understands the assignment. Like, it's not trying to be too big. It's not broadening the scope to where you got to do a whole bunch of stuff. It's like, no, you go level by level, you upgrade your stuff, you power, or you get more power as you go along. And the character animation, the voice acting, the music, all of it is done so well. It is an amazing game, and it really does kind of like show that if you give some of these studios like Tango Gameworks or Obsidian opportunities to let some of the passionate people play with their passion, you can get some really amazing games like Pentiment, Grounded, Hi-Fi Rush. Some of these smaller titles are just absolutely killing it, where the bigger franchises are failing to nail their expectations. So when I see like Hi-Fi Rush as like an 89 or a 90 on Metacritic and OpenCritic, I'm like, yeah, these games should be in the conversation for game of the year. If Neon White was something that everyone was talking about this year. Like Tango Works has made like the next Neon White or the next Tunic. Like they've done it, but they've done it as like a smaller team in a bigger studio. And that's what I love to see. I love to see like what normally would be considered an indie game or like a AA coming from a AAA studio and still killing it.
Fully agree. And in talking to John, like he was the director on the Evil Within 1's DLCs, the Evil Within 2, and those were highly successful for all intents and purposes. And then what was interesting is they started as a 2-man team, and then gradually over time. And by the way, they started in 2018.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and John was telling me, he's like, everyone was saying initially like, oh, it's just a Game Pass game. No, we started in 2018. That's before Bethesda was even picked up by Microsoft. And then they gradually, starting at a 2-man team, started pulling people from other teams at Tango working on like Ghostwire and such, and gradually grew. And now here we are with this game being shadow dropped, and it was really cool to see. And again, those passions, so they come from a horror background, and yet here we are with this bright, colorful game. And like, I wrote it down because he said they wanted any screenshot to be clean, sharp, and colorful. Every screenshot. And it is like they nailed it. And that was their visual mantras. Everything needed to be clean, sharp, and colorful. And all the gameplay is linked to audio tracks. So if you plucked the audio tracks out of the game, it wouldn't play. That was something really cool I learned, because everything is synced to the audio. Isn't that neat?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the fact that the audio is so keenly tied into the actual environment, it really does help with, it doesn't matter which direction you're facing in the game. Like any direction you're facing, if you're not listening to the actual music, say you can't hear the music, you can still visualize the beat. And it doesn't matter where you point the camera, there's going to be something that has a beat or a rhythm along with it. So they've really taken into consideration what I think is 2 things about accessibility, and that's having 2 inputs of information for something that is integral. Like if it's not visual, then it needs to be audio and something that you can feel. Or if it's not audio, then it needs to be something you can see or feel. And those are things that are really important to making sure that you're addressing a larger scope of audience without necessarily locking out someone from being able to play the game for that type of thing. So I really do love the fact that they have thought so keenly about their design and making sure that everyone can really get a feel, a literal rhythm of the game just from looking at what's going on. So it's really nice to see that. The one thing that I would love to have seen, if they did want to push this even further with like an accessibility standpoint, target lock on, let people lock on to targets, so that if they can't see, they can still lock on to an enemy that's there and use the rhythm and use the music to know when to attack and how, because they do a pretty good job of indicating like when attacks are. But there's definitely a couple things that I would love to see if Hi-Fi Rush decides to move forward with the sequel. I would love to have them start working with some accessibility officers or ambassadors to see like where they can start pushing the envelope with some of those things. But man, to have this come from a small team, much like how Grounded and Pentiment got started, it really is impressive to see. Like you can have a AAA studio with people that aren't working on anything. And it kind of reminds me of Steam, like the idea of when Steam was making games, like they had people that were working on projects, and people could move their desk and travel to whatever team was working on a project based on its popularity. And you see this within bigger studios now. So I'm really curious, like if this is a mentality where they're just like, all right, play around with something, see what you like, see what works. And if you find something that really hits, then we'll start devoting more resources to it and make sure that you're having a game that is actually fun and interesting. Because otherwise there's no point in working on it.
That's a good point. That's a really good point. And I wouldn't be surprised if we start hearing more of that. And I mean, obviously we're seeing that Game Pass is a good delivery service of that as well. Pentiment, Hi-Fi, etc. Yeah, no, I think I bet you do see more of that. And I wonder if that lock on or whatever else isn't coming, because I and many other interviewers asked John, like, you know, like, bumped an elbow nudge, like, are we getting DLC, or is there an expansion? Is there a sequel? Are we just done? Because all of those would have made sense. Whatever they said for a Hi-Fi Rush, it would have made sense. If it was just done and now we're moving on, I would have understood it. And always the tongue-in-cheek kind of answer of like, we'll see what happens. Right now we're working on bug fixes and things like that, which makes perfect sense. But my money's on DLC, something small, new songs, things like that.
Yeah, it's as easy as taking some of the characters, having a personal strife, moving forward with their story that takes you away from the main narrative. DLC, go for it.
DLC, or dude, keep everything the same, because visuals, engine, whatnot, make a sequel, drop it this time a year later. I'm sure games are easy. That's
making
games is super easy.
It's like making a puzzle, right? You just got to find the border and then work your way in.
Yeah, duh, obvious.
Easy.
Let's give a question here. We have Clint Combs writing in, not Patreon subscriber Clint Combs. He says, I've always been a fan of shadow drops as it gets me pretty excited for the game for some reason. After the success of Hi-Fi Rush, do you think we'll see more in the future? Ooh, I have thoughts on this one. Logan, do you want to tackle this one first or second?
I go ahead. You got thoughts? I've got thoughts, but I'm curious what you want to say.
So I think shadow drops work great with some kinds of games, certain types of games, primarily single player games. If there's a multiplayer online element where you've got a lot more variables in play than a single player experience, that needs to be considered, and maybe not shadow drop. Don't shadow drop your live service multiplayer intensive game. That's probably
Apex Legends.
So there's obviously a caveat, right? And it's funny that you mentioned Apex, because we're going to talk about that in just a few minutes. But there's obviously some caveats there. I think shadow drops work with certain types of games at certain levels of polish. For Apex Legends, that was using an older engine. It didn't even look up to snuff visually with Call of Duty at the time. Like when that thing launched, it looked like not a generation back, but it looked several games back versus next to Call of Duty, right? That said, Apex is incredible. Loved it. I played so much Apex when it first launched. So, but it was also limited, right? Like only trios, no special stuff, no battle pass. Like there was a lot of limits to what you got in that Apex experience as well. So I think shadow drops work well when used sparingly. I don't want to see a precedent set where we get another shadow drop at the next developer direct, and then from then on, people are like, oh, what are they going to drop this time? That's not a healthy expectation. So from time to time, it works great. Pentiment would have been a bad shadow drop. I think people would have all jumped in and be like, what is this? Is this having expectations for what Pentiment is ahead of time, works well. But a colorful, engaging action game is a great shadow drop. You can jump in and just go. So I think it's very, very sparingly used. Yeah, I think they're fine. What do you think?
I think it really depends on, like you mentioned, the style of game. A game like Hi-Fi Rush is one that you can understand within the first 10 minutes. If you pick a game that is open world with skill trees and quest types that have, like Forspoken would have been a terrible game to shadow drop, because there's so much you have to learn and understand about the way the spells are done and the parkour is done. And there's a lot of world to go experience, and there's a narrative that you're trying to tell. The narrative for Hi-Fi Rush is a Saturday morning cartoon. You can get through it pretty quickly. So if it's something that is easily digestible, that at quick glance, people can understand what it is, how to play it, and where the story's going with it, I think those three factors really do impact just how easy it is, which is why I think Apex did so well. You knew it was a battle royale. You knew it had a hero class, and you knew that it was coming from the people that did Titanfall. And you could understand most of that pretty quickly. And people jumped in. They had a really good time with it. Everyone remembers how powerful the wingman was. So looking at that, that's, I think, the key thing. If you've got a game that, say like Banjo-Kazooie came out with a new game, Rare decided to drop what they were doing with oh my God, why am I blanking on their Outer Wild? No, not Outer Wild. Everwild. It's game studios in your names. If they decided to drop Everwild and turn it into a new Banjo and Kazooie game, I think you could shadow drop a Banjo Kazooie because it's an established franchise. It's a game where most likely it's going to be a 3D platformer. You know, the abilities and stuff are not going to be hard to pick up and understand, and you're probably going to be able to understand that the story is fairly straightforward. So something like that would hit massive. But you're not going to drop Avowed shadow drop or Starfield shadow drop.
Right.
And have people be like, oh yeah, I can see why that's interesting. You know, this was big and flashy. That's why Hi-Fi Rush works.
I agree. I think you're absolutely right. You know, if that Activision Blizzard deal goes through, it'd be cool to see Toys for Bob, Spyro, Skylanders. Make Banjo. That'd be cool.
Love Spyro.
Yeah.
That remaster was fantastic.
It was fantastic. Oh, it was good. But yeah, great question, Clint. Thank you for writing in. That's a really good one. Quick note. Halo Infinite's multiplayer was shadow dropped 2 weeks early, but I don't put that in the same category. Do you?
I do actually.
You do,
because you know Halo. You understand where it's going. There's not a story to tell, and we had already had a bunch of flights. We had a flight back in August, and everyone was like, "Yeah, no, this is good to go." And outside of the battle pass system and the store system and the cosmetics and stuff, I think it hit really, really well because it was already established and people were hungry for it. They wanted to be able to play it. And I think that's why it hit so well, is because we already understood why Halo Infinite is, or why Halo is Halo, is because we're going in there with a BX, Destiny. We're going in there with a battle rifle and we're going to get 4 shots and we're going to round and just capture flags. That's right. Easy to understand.
Yeah. Fair point. I'll tell you what, with Halo Infinite, I don't think you're getting any new shadow drops anytime soon, because that has what a talking point. There are times where I am sick of talking about Halo Infinite, and there are times where we get real information, and it is exhausting from time to time. But reports coming out from multiple sources, corroborated by multiple sources, that 343i, kind of next to the layoffs that we talked about already, they are moving Halo Infinite to Unreal Engine. And there's some caveats in this because they did a lot of work on that Slipspace Engine. They did a lot of work with Forge. There's stuff coming, but simply put, it didn't hit or wasn't as usable because of the studio structure. They had built this incredible new engine, Slipspace, which does some pretty impressive things, but they were using a lot of contract work, which meant you weren't getting legacy workers. And it was making things difficult, a lot of really bad management, which is why Joseph Staten was brought in at the time to get the thing cleared for launch, get the campaign out there, multiplayer out there, which for all intents and purposes, campaign and multiplayer launched extremely well. Great product to have, really bad as a live service. Asterisk, we'll talk about live service in a minute. But contract workers, Slipspace Engine next to each other don't work for building legacy and long-term plans. And in short, its live service elements failed, and Certain Affinity working on Project Tatanka, which we all believe to be a battle royale, along with kind of needing different legacy elements to come in. Looks like the studio is shifting to Unreal, which a lot of people are more familiar with industry-wide, different than a proprietary engine. Bottom line, man, this means likely no new story campaign DLC or story expansions. The 10-year plan for Halo Infinite is gone. We'll see upgrades to the multiplayer side of things, which is still great, for the record. Still very playable, extremely fun. I'm stoked for the Noble event next week. I'm ready, but I'm bummed at what's going on with Halo. But the idea of bringing in Unreal and letting that be an engine that Halo exists on, and the talent the talent pool of people that can work with Unreal is far more expansive. This might be the right choice for Halo long term. Where you at?
I think this is a really positive move.
Okay.
I think they tried something. They worked really hard on it. They really wanted it to work. I'm not going to blame the fact that they had multiple studios working on different parts of the game, because if you look at major AAA games, a lot of them do that.
Sure.
Not too many don't have some sort of support studio out there, especially like take a look at Activision Blizzard as a perfect example of how many studios are working on Call of Duty, and all of them don't hit. Some of them do, and the ones that do still need help from other studios. So I'm not going to blame that. I will 100% put the blame on the shoulders of the management, because that is what their job is to manage, and they didn't. It's a real bummer that the cosmetics and the UI are the things that hang me up the most. Because I think they did. I really do believe that 343 nailed it with MCC. I think MCC was a perfect system. And I think they just needed to take what MCC did with their armor sets and move it over to Infinite. And I think a lot of folks would have been very happy about it. All they had to do was take a lot of the maps and stuff that were in MCC and bring those in through a cadence for Halo Infinite, and they would have been fine. People would have been happy. The fact that the rumors are that Halo Infinite is moving to Unreal really makes me happy. And that's saying, I know that we were planning on the 10-year thing that they talked about with Slipspace, but having it working off of Unreal gives them a lot broader of scope when it comes to the available pool of people and engineers that know how to work on Unreal. And they can additionally get support over from the Coalition, who are building the next Gears game in Unreal 5.
Yes.
You've got so many really good studios at Microsoft that are working in Unreal. And having Halo be pulled over to Unreal is something that will just offer better uniform engines across the studios, and that will help with them kind of like asking questions, borrowing tech, things like that. The question always comes into mind: will Halo still feel like Halo in Unreal? And if they can move Halo from the I've just blanked on the name of the engine that they were using.
Slipspace.
Before Slipspace.
It was a proprietary engine that I don't remember either.
I can't remember what the name is.
Ainsley Bowden pops out of the sky. He's like,
guys, actually, it's this one. And
he knows what it is. Believe it or not, they've actually been using the. Yeah, Ains would know.
You suck, Ains.
I think if they can move the feel of Halo from one proprietary engine to Slipspace and still have it work, then they understand what makes a Halo game feel like a Halo game. And if they can do that, they can do it again. And if they can do it with Unreal, there are plenty of studios out there making first party titles in Unreal, or first person shooters, I should say, in Unreal that can assist with that. And I'm not too worried. My main issue is I don't know why 343 and Halo has railed against the idea of having a battle royale when their franchise is so keenly designed to be able to do that with drop pods. You've got perfect ways to have Spartans drop into situations. You don't even need the drop pod. Master Chief just falls out of things all the time. He gets out of cryo, he wakes up, he looks up, he looks down, he looks left, he looks right, and then he falls out of a ship and he goes and kills a bunch of stuff.
Yep.
Just make that into a battle royale and you're set. Yeah. So I don't know why they pushed against that for so long, but I hope Certain Affinity feels confident about that. If not, keep working on it, keep pushing. If you have something fun, just grab onto that and keep moving forward with it. Don't scrap it if it's something that you're trepidatious about, because people will play it regardless, and everyone's going to have opinions, but there's always going to be a certain number of people that will jump in and love it, and Halo is got that. I think I'll be very curious, how do you feel about a battle royale where in multiplayer the battle rifle is 4 shots and you're dead? How do you combat that in a battle royale? There's questions that I have. The time to kill. Shields? You think shields. So like stronger shields?
Yeah, stronger shields. Yeah, easy. Stronger shields. You see this happen in Fortnite. You see this happen in Apex. I haven't played Warzone in a bit.
They just got a new map too.
Did they? Shout out.
Yeah.
Shout out.
Yeah.
Most of my Call of Duty time is spent either in DMZ or Quick Play. Just lately, and it's been less and less because I've been doing so much XEP stuff. We've been playing single player. But yeah, shields. Yeah, easy stuff. There's a lot of foundation in Halo for over shields and stuff like that. But I'm right with you. And as far as like how Halo is just so ripe for it, I think I pitched that idea, not just me, I'm sure, but like 2-3 years ago when Halo Infinite was first like being mentioned, I was pitching that as an idea. And I think it's very silly that they avoided battle royale. The only BR is the battle rifle. That's a dumb thing to say. But I think that got memed also. I'm sure that was just an in the moment comment. But I went through stages of grief with this news, and I'm no longer I'm exhausted from being upset about Halo Infinite, because I love Halo. I love Halo Infinite. To me, it is my second favorite Halo. Halo Infinite.
I really love it.
I'd say 4 Infinite and Reach. At any given moment, I fluctuate between 1, 2, and 3 for those for different reasons.
I'll agree with 2 of the 3.
Yeah. And so, all right, different conversation. We'll put that in the Xbox wrap up. But you know what I mean? Like side note, just live on air here, we should start a doc for the Xbox wrap up, to be specific.
Oh yeah, we should. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that right now.
We'll rank the Halo games. So I love Halo Infinite, and the dream that is dashed by kind of this move really sucks, because I wanted more of that story. I wanted more of that ring. I'm sure we'll get it in Unreal, but I really wanted more. And I'm a little frustrated by why it hasn't just happened. Why can't you just drop scorpions in more often to the world, or augment the world? Just little stuff. It seems strange, but I'm no longer, the energy spent on being upset, gone. I'm done with it. I love Halo Infinite for what it is. I'm going to enjoy it, and I'm just moving on from it. I've watched the Snyderverse and DC Studios put me through the ringer. I've watched Halo do this. Titanfall has done this, which we'll talk about in a moment. Sometimes I just love things that don't work, and it's like, oh, maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just me. But I can't put the energy into being upset anymore, because there's so much else to enjoy. Maybe that's part of the hashtag find the fun element. But I'm stoked for Unreal and Halo. I really am. I want this to be a thing. I'm excited to enjoy more multiplayer stuff for Infinite to come. The Noble event has me stoked. I can finally get that shoulder piece I wanted. And that's just weird, niche
it's the
stuff.
Wolf one, right?
Not the Wolf one. It's from Noble Team, Noble One Carter. It's a plate. It's just a plate that sits up a little higher, but it looks
it's the Zavala plate, right?
I don't know what the name is.
Oh my God. I'm
sorry, buddy.
Destiny fans, you understand. You'll get back to me and let me know.
Okay.
I don't know. Enough. I don't remember the Noble Team that well, but I know Zavala's shoulder plates.
Gotcha. Fair enough. But I'm stoked. I think actually you're right from what I vaguely remember.
I gotta look this up now.
But yeah, bottom line, I'm over being upset. And I'm looking at Halo Infinite, and is now a multiplayer only event with a campaign that I can enjoy with my buddies. I am curious to see what the Forge PvE modes mean. That is something I'm excited for. Moans, yeah. Ooh, but I do want PvE with Halo back. I love that. Yeah. And so if Forge can deliver it, which it can, I'm excited to see what happens there. But I'm done being angry. I had to let it go. Simple as that.
I was very happy, because I just finished all of the campaign co-op achievements with my buddy Caleb, and we got all. Yeah, it was fantastic. He's been pulling me through, and we've been working on. Dude, there's one where you have to kill 2 hunters, in a certain place with melee hits.
Whoa, that's cool.
So we were like timing it out, but yeah, the campaign co-op ones were pretty fun to kind of work through, but. Yeah, I'm ready for more story. I hate the idea that it's going to be a while before we get more, but man, if they toss out a battle royale for Halo, I think that'll be a really fun thing to play around with.
Oh yeah, in a heartbeat. And I do want to do the co-op achievements at some point. Maybe Joe or Kevin or Suddy will want to jump in with me, but I want to at some point. But there's so much else on my plate I'm not rushing. And I guess there is no rush. It's not like more stuff's coming for a while.
Yeah.
And Halo's often been a summer thing. Like my buddies and I, we did the MCC together like 2 summers ago in prep for Infinite.
Oh,
and we'll do that again at some point, just as a co-op for Infinite.
That's what
Infinite
I did.
Genuinely great. Did you? Nice.
Yeah, I went through, because I'd never played 4 or 5 or Reach. So I went and played through all of them before Infinite, so that I could feel like, okay, if I had to rank these, like I want to have a solid foundation from now perspective, not glory days perspective.
Sure. Well, I mentioned franchises that I love that don't get to extend or whatnot. It looks like, and we should all be really angry about this, Titanfall 3 is not happening, asterisk, but it makes for a good headline. Titanfall 3 dreams appear to be dashed. Logan, EA has reportedly canceled a single-player game that was set in the Titanfall universe, which is also the Apex Legends universe, after the financial quarter for EA kind of fell short. This was a Bloomberg piece. This unnamed and unannounced game, which I am calling Titanfall 3. My source is me, that I made up. It was codenamed Titanfall Legends. Lame. Was reportedly canceled, and the lead designer left in early 2022. The development had consisted of roughly 50 people, and EA is now helping them find roles within the company. I'm bummed about this because Titanfall has been done dirty so many times over. They had a really good mobile game, canceled. They had, I really loved that game, by the way. They really had, Titanfall 2 was just incredible. Titanfall 1 launched on the much maligned Xbox One, but it was really good. Titanfall 2 was just such an incredible experience that they, for some reason, meshed between the newest Battlefield and the newest Call of Duty. Why? And it boggles my mind because Respawn doesn't miss. Bottom line, man, it sucks. It sounds like Titanfall 3 is further out and a ways off, and I don't know why, because Titanfall 2 is routinely considered one of the best FPS games ever made, and it's always on sale for $4, and it's just like, what's going on here, man? What's going on?
Yeah. It's a bummer, but I'm always of the mindset that if something's not working and you're not in a game, just it's not working, I would much rather them decide like, okay, it's not working. It sucks that we have to do this. Like I've been here. I've lived through this. This is StarCraft Ghost for me. Like I wanted StarCraft Ghost. I didn't get StarCraft Ghost, but you know what? I could live with not having StarCraft Ghost because if it got canceled, then either two things happened. One, the studio couldn't manage themselves well enough and they just had to scrap it because it was taking too much resources, which it doesn't sound like this was the case. It sounds like there was something else because they had 50 people working on this and most of them are hopefully getting pushed over to different roles. Hopefully they're not being let go. That would suck. But if you have something, or the other thing is it's just not fun. It's just not a good game. And if it's not a good game, then yeah, you could slap whatever name you want on that, and people are going to be like, "Oh no, it's so bad. I want this game." And it's like, look, I want a Titanfall 3 too. I would love to have a Titanfall 3. I would love to have a Titanfall that was in the Transformers universe, where I'm working with Optimus Prime and he's throwing me from Autobot to Autobot to get to a Decepticon. Like, I would love to play that game, but.
Damn, that sounds cool. I was mad at you at first, like, don't take my Titanfall away. And then I'm like, all right, that sounds pretty cool. That's very mean. All right.
But I would love to have a Titanfall 3, but I only want a Titanfall 3 if the studio that's working on it feels like it will be the natural successor to Titanfall 2. I don't want them to mess with that. I want them to find what would be a good story to move forward with, because Titanfall 2 to me, while in Titanfall 1 too, or 1 as well, those games had such a good gameplay loop, but we've had Apex Legends. We know what that feels like, and it's great. I want them to find a good story. And if they don't have a good story, if the head person leaves EA, then you've lost the drive. You've lost the person that is going to really kind of shoulder the weight of making a really good Titanfall game. And if that happens, then it's like, all right, you know what? It's a bummer, but it's better to do this than to shove out the undone steak to someone and have them just get sick, because then they're going to lose faith in Titanfall. So I would much rather them cancel something that is doomed to be bad because it lost its way than to continue to feed stuff into it to the point where by the time you get it, you're like, this is not the Titanfall I wanted. They should have never have done this, because that's what the narrative would have been.
Yeah, that's a fair point and a good argument to be made. Not regardless, this is one that I'm sad about. I know it's silly. I know it's silly to be sad because, in truth, I don't have the energy to be upset anymore about some stuff, and I'm not here. I'm sad here in this case, but this was never announced. It didn't even have a name that was proper. It had only a code name. And the team wasn't that big for what you would expect a Titanfall 3 to have. So in the big picture, I think even me saying Titanfall 3 is a bit silly. But it is a bummer that universe isn't getting expanded. And we're seeing a lot of live service games shut down, which is our next topic. But included in that is Apex Legends Mobile, which is tied to that Titanfall Apex universe. That's shutting down. And that was one of the games that was up for like mobile game of the year in 2022. And it's a matter of engagement. Battlefield Mobile also shutting down. Matter of engagement. We're seeing a lot of live service titles start to shut down. And seemingly, Apex Legends Mobile, which is in the Titanfall world, wasn't getting the numbers. And so that means something,
Yeah.
It does mean something. And let's go ahead and kind of take on this new topic here, Logan. Lots of live service games are shutting down. Lots of them.
It's kind of crazy to take a look at this. We've got a whole bunch that put out announcements, and I don't know if this is because it's the end of the month or the end of the first start of the 2023.
Is it fiscal years maybe?
It could be, yeah. We saw some fiscal numbers come out from other companies and stuff. So it could be just that they're taking a look at what the numbers are. They're saying like, all right, let's see what we need to budget for the next year to see like what's going to stay, what's not. And a lot of these are just not doing it. And it's kind of a bummer because I think right now the trouble is saturation in the market mixed with time for multiplayer. Like I can handle. Actually, Luke, here's a really good question. Here's a piece for you. How many live service games do you play?
Great question.
Like actually play.
Sea of Thieves, but so okay. Ooh, okay.
See,
I consider myself Sea of Thieves regular, but I haven't touched season 8. Take that for what you will. 900 hours in, but it's not enough for the Sea of Thieves community.
We're a salty bunch.
You're damn it. All right. Sea of Thieves.
Okay.
Call of Duty.
Okay.
Fortnite.
Yeah.
Halo Infinite.
4.
How
many of those 4 do you cap out in the season pass consistently?
Halo Infinite, Call of Duty, Fortnite. And when I play Sea of Thieves, like it's not hard to cap a battle pass these days.
No, but I would say that is the level of engagement that live services are asking for.
Sure.
So for me, I play Call of Duty. I play Fortnite. I play Sea of Thieves. I play Destiny 2, and I think that's it. So I've got my 4, and out of those, only 2 of them get capped on a consistent basis.
And I would say of my 4, at least one suffers due to the others.
Yeah. So I think, and this is with the caveat that it's like I'm trying to also put in single player games into this. Like I'm trying to work through single player content that I go for on a regular basis. And then there's games where I've already capped out the season pass and I still continue to play them because that's just a game that I really love to play. But I think that what we're seeing here is the games that are just not as good as other live service games are the ones that are getting shut down. And they're the ones that, if they were a single player game, they would have not sold nearly as well as others. And it's not that these are bad games. I think it's just there's a time limit to when you have to decide when a live service game is going to find its end of life. And like, for example, Avengers, they stuck with it a lot longer than I thought they were going to. And that could have been contracts. It could have been passion. It could have been, moving between teams and seeing like who's going to be able to work on what, how many people do you actually need to kind of sustain this kind of thing. And I wonder, like with a studio who's going all in with like a Rumbleverse or Knockout City, like that's their game. And if it's not working, there's a bleed timer, right? There's only so much cash you can bleed before you have to say, we've hit the point where we're running up against the amount of money that we need to be able to make something new. Once you hit that point, you have to decide, all right, we're going to kill this because we only have enough money to be able to make the next thing because this isn't doing as well as we wanted.
It reminds me of when Cliff Bleszinski's game was rolling out there. I forget the name of it at this time, but Lawbreakers.
Yeah.
And there were a couple others that were like, all right, we're gonna shift to battle royale. Like that was their last ditch effort to survive because those teams were all in on those games. But the landscape is more and more competitive. I don't know how much subscription services and free to play elements play a factor here, but like Rumbleverse, it's a barely half a year after its launch. It launched on August 11th, 2022. That's shutting down. And Iron Galaxy, a respected studio, but they're now refunding people. And it goes offline February 28th. That's quick.
Yeah.
Knockout City, that game is shutting down while it's in season 9. So cool. That made it pretty well, but it's shutting down on June 6th. Season 9 launches on February 28th. Knockout City's going away. You mentioned Avengers. That's going away. Xbox exclusive, but not at all promoted, Crossfire X, which was made by Smilegate, which had a single player element, by the way, made from Remedy. That was probably the best part of that very generic and bland shooter. That game is now no longer even listed. Everything that was spent since in the last 14 days is being refunded. That game is shutting down on May 18th, and you can't play it unless you downloaded it before. You have to go into like your old purchases, which, side note, I might actually do because I like FPSs. Maybe I go burn through the campaign while I can, get the achievements. Is that something I care to do? I don't know if I care to do that, right? Like, do I want to because it's going to be gone? I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, what's the right answer? Game preservation is important to me. I love playing old games. That ties into our Xbox 360 topic, but it's going away. These games keep getting shut down. And I think it's a matter of kind of like what you said. There's a lot of competition in those realms. And if you're not among the top, and even if you are among the top, like, are you getting enough to get your returns? That's a tough thing to figure out. And in a world where free to play and subscription services can augment how many players you get out the gate, are you delivering? Live service is expensive. You need consistent content. It's brutal, but also like know your limits. I don't know if that's right either.
Yeah, it's hard to make a multiplayer game because you have to determine at some point how much money are you going to spend to sustain the multiplayer aspect of it. And if it were just like if back in the day, if it were just like, say, Halo, multiplayer would be supported for a very long time because you wouldn't do anything to it afterwards. Right. And you would hope that the sales of the game initially are good enough to be able to build the next Halo. Nowadays, multiplayer really does have to be something that's either free to play or available to as many people as possible, because you really are competing with a lot of other games out there. And if you're not something that either has an established franchise or is incredibly tight as far as like actual gameplay goes, you're going to have a really, really tough time. So having the live service aspect, and this is something that I was kind of, the irony does not escape me when I think about the fact that we just saw Sony buy Bungie, and the reason for it is because Bungie is one of the few studios out there that has successfully managed live service for a long time. And Sony's looking to actually like build out that live service profile for their franchises. And I look at stuff like this and I'm like, okay, the thing that Sony is doing right is they hired one of the best studios. They bought one of the best studios for live service games, and they have IP that demands respect for the quality of games that they do it. When I look at the list of stuff that is announced this week to be shutting down their live services, it doesn't like Marvel's Avengers is the best thing. And that's saying a lot given the reception of the game, even though I know that there's a lot of fans like yourself who really enjoy it.
Sure, but a very small group. Like a lot of fans, but small next to any of the games that we've listed. Sea of Thieves, Fortnite, Call of Duty. Like extremely small compared to them.
Yeah. So this is one of those situations where these were the ones that just couldn't hack it. And it's always a bummer, but if they were just single player games that have been tossed out there, they probably would have gotten like 6s or 7s, and those would have been ignored. Most people probably wouldn't have paid or played them. Mm-hmm. The fact that they were games as a live service is just one of those things. It's not a bubble. It's just there's better ones out there right now.
Yeah, I think you're right. That said, it is a bummer for those devs. I hate that for them because clearly they put in a lot of love.
Yeah,
a lot of love.
I'm hoping that they have money stacked up right now, and they'll move into the next project, and they'll learn what they did, or they'll learn from this, grow, and come out with something even better in the future. That's what I hope. I know that's not always the case. A lot of studios have to shut down or get absorbed by bigger studios after something like this. But I do hope that they were smart about what they did when they first, kicked off, and instead of bleeding dry to the point where they have nothing left, that they at least got to a point where they're like, all right, here's the stopping point. We're going to move forward with a new project, and we'll come back better next time.
Agreed. Yep. I do want to answer famous Seamus questions here. He wrote in and said, with news of Crossfire X, Rumbleverse, and Knockout City shutting down and all other recent shutdowns, do you think the live service bubble is going to burst? How much do you think these shutdowns will affect both Microsoft and Sony? We've kind of touched on this, but do you think this is a burst in the live service bubble, Logan?
I don't think so, no. I initially, yes, I did, but then I started to take a look at what the titles were that were actually cutting off services. If this was like Halo Infinite or like Forza, then I'd be like, okay, there's something going on. Or if it was like Overwatch 2, then I'd be like, all right, something's happening in the market, like what happened with loot boxes. I suspect that this is just natural. It's the beginning of a year. They have to decide what their next year is going to look like. And these didn't make the cut. If I think these are going to affect Microsoft and Sony, I think Sony will hopefully be able to have enough faith in their IP and enough information from Bungie to be able to move forward with positive live service aspects of their IPs. But at the same time, I also worry that they're maybe trying to hit too many of the same market, because a lot of the PlayStation franchise, I think like PlayStation gamers in general, I think they usually go for the games that are the first party studios that are single player games that they play through the story, they get all the achievements, they get their platinums, and then they're out. They go to the next thing. I don't know if they're ready for live service. Microsoft fans, I think we're good. We'll hop between whatever we've got installed or whatever we can cloud stream with Game Pass. It's like perfect. We're used to this. So I don't think it's going to affect Microsoft at all. I think if anything, Microsoft should definitely take a look at what these games didn't do and how to apply that, how to apply the opposite to their games as they move forward. So that way Gears 6 is fantastic and has an amazing live service to it. I hope that, whatever Everwild is going to be is planning on doing something like this. Like Sea of Thieves was their first live service. They've gone through a lot of growing pains and learned a lot, but that game is still thriving because the loop is good. So I'm hoping that they push that to Everwild as well too. I don't think Microsoft's too worried about it, but I do think that people will start to pick and choose. And I think 4 to 5 games as a service is about as much as most people will be able to play.
Fair. I think you're right. I think you're exactly right. I think that number is the sweet spot. And in large part, I agree with everything you said, so I'm not going to rehash that one. But good question, famous Seamus.
Oh, thanks, Seamus.
Yeah, he's the man. Let's quickly address some congratulations to Tim Schafer. You want to take that one?
Yeah. So for those that don't know, the Hall of Fame, the Academy of Interactive Arts and Sciences Hall of Fame, we recently had the DICE Awards this month. And DICE Awards it's fantastic. It's peers promoting and celebrating other peers. But Tim Schafer from Double Fine, who's been making Psychonauts and Psychonauts 2, amazing game. One that I can't play because I can't get past the teeth in the first Psychonauts level for the second one. I can't do it, man. It's so gross. It messes with me. But Tim Schafer was inducted into the Academy of Interactive Arts and Sciences Hall of Fame, which is fantastic. It's amazing to have him celebrated. He's been in the industry for, gosh, it's like 30 some years at this point. Like he's been making LucasArts games forever. You know, he's been in and out of it. He knows exactly what he likes to do, and he knows what he wants to make. And he's not afraid to tell people, no, I don't want to make a Banjo-Kazooie, because he wants to make what he wants. So shout out to him. Congrats for being inducted into the Hall of Fame. Totally deserved.
Yep. I agree with that one. Pretty cool to see, now an Xbox first party, but in general, just a legend in gaming get honored. That's what I think is cool. Psychonauts for me, pretty darn cool franchise. It didn't click at the time. Again, that feels like a game I'm going to go back to and enjoy for sure. Let's give a quick nod to Ghostbusters Spirits Unleashed. They're adding new stuff to their game, DLC, new map, that kind of stuff. It's one of the cool ghosts from the Afterlife movie, which was pretty cool. And I'm stoked for this one because hoping maybe fingers crossed, we get to have one of them on the show, because I liked Spirits Unleashed a lot. Talking about that live service being, that bubble being burst, I guess you would say. I wanted to say busted because of Ghostbusters.
Busted makes you feel good.
Busted,
it's there.
Make you feel good, doesn't it? Clip that bad boy. I'll really and truly, I hope that one doesn't go away, because that's a really fun game. But I'm not playing it as much right now, but I love it. Like, it's a really good, fun game. I want this game to keep living, and I'm stoked to see that they're bringing content to it.
Yeah, when I saw the because they have the real Ghostbusters cartoon, they brought some of the cosmetics from that for like the proton packs and stuff, and I was like, oh, it's my childhood. I love it. I want to get Spirits Unleashed. I've been holding off because I genuinely have not had a whole bunch of people that play around the same time that I do actually want to jump into this. So I've been watching mouth drooling, oh, I want to play this. I want to be a ghost. I want to be a Ghostbuster and stuff. But everyone that I know that plays it doesn't play at the same time I do. So I've been holding off. And now that Muncher from Afterlife is coming, I'm like, oh, I kind of want to go play as Muncher. That's hilarious. So, but that's one where I'm looking to see if I can find a couple of people. Maybe XEP has community members that want to play Spirits Unleashed. And if you do, let us know, because I would love to be able to jump in, PST time to be able to just kind of go around, play around with it. I would love to pick this up, especially on Xbox.
Nice. I hope so. And I'll see what we can do as far as getting you a code. I think we can make that happen.
I would love to talk to them.
Yeah, same. That would be really cool, because they've got some pretty high profile people kind of working at Ilphonic, which is pretty darn cool.
Not to mention, they also managed to get some really good IPs too. Ilphonic has been, and it started off with Friday the 13th as that asymmetrical gameplay, and Friday the 13th is a huge IP for a lot of horror fans. And then they just went from Friday the 13th right into Predator. And it's dude, those games were good. And for whatever reason, Ghostbusters is hitting a lot more than those games were. But I'm really happy with that company. That company knows how to make asymmetrical multiplayer games, and they continue to do really good jobs with it. And because I think we were talking about live service games, didn't Back 4 Blood just announce that they're discontinuing service as well too?
Yep, Back 4 Blood will be finishing soon. They're discontinuing production on stuff. They're having their third expansion, and that's the last one. Back 4 Blood, a great game, but Turtle Rock is going to focus on their next project. And Tier 3 patron Kevin Butler, my best friend, who does not listen to this show but is supportive. He does do it. He does help me with thumbnails and stuff. Kevin, he said in our group chat, he goes, "Does this mean that Back 4 Blood is Left 4 Dead?" And I was like, God. Get out right now. But I'm ashamed to say I laughed really hard, out loud in front of people. And
it's
everybody looked at me and I was like, nothing.
It's so good, but it's so dumb.
Yep. I like Back 4 Blood. That was a group that I tried to get on XEP. We actually had a date scheduled, and then something happened and they had to cancel. I don't mind saying that. It's been 6 months. But yeah, that happens a lot, actually.
It's tough.
Development's tough for game making schedules work. But Back 4 Blood was a really fun game, and I really liked it.
Yeah.
But that same kind of thing, in order to play it, you need X amount of people, you need X amount of things, and that's kind of kind of a bummer there for sure.
Was that one that was on Game Pass originally? I don't remember that being on Game Pass originally. I can't remember.
I don't remember either. I know it wasn't initially. It didn't launch into Game Pass, I don't think.
That's what it was. Because it was it didn't come out on Game Pass originally because it hit right about the same time as that Aliens Fireteam did. And Aliens Fireteam was on Game Pass, if I recall correctly.
Fun.
Yeah, again, see, that's another one. Wow.
Yeah. I need to go back. I hope they build ways for you to just play this game single player. Because you got to build AI and stuff, I'm sure. But
that's the trick. AI is tough.
That was cool. You ever want to play Aliens Fireteam? We'll set up a play date for that too, because I'm in on that one.
Dude, I'm down. I'm 100% down. I will buy that. Or no, is it still on Game Pass? I'll have to check and see if it's still on Game Pass. If it is, I will download it because I want to play that.
Let me say clearly for any listener, if we do want to set up community play dates and stuff, that'd be fun. I would enjoy that if we wanted to get community members together and play like Ghostbusters or whatnot. I'd be down to do that. That would be a good time if you and I, Logan, could jump in and like have people jump in with us. I'm not a streamer. I found that I just don't enjoy streaming, or at least the production for it. I'd jump into somebody's stream, but like I don't want to.
Me too.
That's not me. That's not who I am, I guess.
Yeah.
But I would totally enjoy a community play date for Ghostbusters or Aliens Fireteam or something.
Yeah.
That stuff's fun.
Sean Capri does it.
He does it really well.
If he can do it, we could do it.
Yes, but Sean is a master producer.
You
got to say that carefully. But he's a great producer of content, and Carpool Gaming, like they have a great community there too.
They do.
So yeah, but he has a set schedule and stuff. I just found that that's not me. Like I'm not the guy that can do the set schedule every time, all the time. But if we set a date, I mean, I'll throw that in the XCP calendar and we'll make it happen. So
it'd be fun. Let us know.
Let us know for real. Yeah, I would really enjoy that. Logan, Xbox 360 Marketplace is losing titles. We should all panic and run for the hills for this one.
I was worried.
I find this interesting because I'm hearing mixed things, and you might have to correct me on this one.
Okay.
Removals are starting on the 7th of February.
Correct.
You can re-download the titles if you've previously purchased them, but you'll no longer be able to purchase them.
Correct.
But I have heard that it's not that the games are going away. It's that the 360 Marketplace is shutting down. So if you're on a 360, they're no longer available. But then I've heard counterpoints to that. Do you know kind of how this is working here? Because with back compat, your system can emulate certain, your 360 and stuff. So there's a bit of I'm not quite sure the details on this one.
So originally they did say that the Marketplace was getting shut down in May. Mm-hmm. And that was actually not the case. That was actually an error on their part. They said that it originally was going to get shut down in May. They said that they've actually come out and stated that it was going to be that it wasn't going to be shut down in May. That was just kind of what the original thing said. But yeah, starting February 7th, which is like 3 days, a host of games are actually going to be removed from the Xbox 360 Marketplace. If you've bought these games, you can still re-download them, like you mentioned, but they're still going to be made available for the Xbox One and for the Xbox Series S and X marketplaces, and they are backwards compat too. So even if you have these games on the 360, if you move forward to an Xbox One, I will not kid you, my brother-in-law has recently bought an Xbox 360 as their new console, not like as I want to go back to play old games. It's like they're starting with the Xbox 360. I don't know why they went 360 and they didn't go one. I blame the naming conventions. But I got to let him know about this because things that are actually some pretty good. There's a lot of games, but like Assassin's Creed games are getting pulled off. Blue Dragon's getting pulled off. Call of Duty stuff is getting pulled off. Castle Crashers, which has never gotten a physical release that I know of, is getting pulled off. Counter-Strike, Dark Souls, Darksiders, Far Cry, Jet Set Radio, the aforementioned Left 4 Dead and Left 4 Dead 2 are getting pulled off. Limbo, Mass Effect 2, Peggle, Prince of Persia, the Sega Vintage
versions. We should clarify. Some of these have Xbox One versions, which are Series S and X versions by default. Some of these have Xbox One, but we're talking about the 360 versions.
Yeah. And that's the other thing too, is with all of these 360 versions, you can still use the physical copies if you have those. So if you have the discs for these, you can still put those into your 360 or One or Series system. They'll all still play. That's 100% the case, but they're just taking them off of the ability to buy them. Like you can still play them whenever you want, but as far as being able to purchase them, they're removing this the same way that Nintendo is shutting down like a lot of games for their 3DS library and their Wii U library and stuff. Like we're just losing the ability to continue to purchase them. But if this is something where some of these are locked to the Xbox 360 and they never got a physical release, I would recommend going in just to buy them, just to have on your account, since you'll be able to re-download them at any point, or at least until the foreseeable future when they said that they can't do that anymore. Mm-hmm. But at least that way, some of you guys that are fans of keeping games, like game preservation is a very big deal. I very much support that. Make sure that you're getting in there in the next couple days to see like if there's something you want to buy. Hopefully you guys have already heard about this and this is a no-brainer, or this may not even affect you because it's the 360. It's we're 2 generations removed from it at this point, and it's not even a thought in your mind. But I know a lot of people were upset when Halo 3 shut down their multiplayer servers. There were still a bunch of people that were still playing on those. They had like I know, right? Like I don't know who's playing on a 360 outside of my brother-in-law right now, but if this impacts you, act fast. Make sure that you're looking to see like what are the resale values for the used copies of the physical editions. What games didn't get physical releases? Do some due diligence. Make sure you're not missing out on these going away, because once they take them off the microplay or the marketplace, we can't purchase them anymore.
Yep, that's a good point. Oh, okay. All right. So let's go into some listener questions and then wrap up, my friend. This one comes for you from Mr. Rune Came. It says, question for the captain. What are some things in Sea of Thieves? That's some things to do in Sea of Thieves when you just want to jump in for a quick session with some friends and you don't have more than, say, an hour. Is it even worth playing for such short sessions? I love the game, but I always feel like Sea of Thieves demands some proper time to really shine, so my group doesn't play it as much as we like because of life, time, lack of thereof. Help us figure out how to play more Sea of Thieves without being hardcore. Help Rune out.
Hardcore is that's a gray word for me. I totally understand. That came out in such a way that I did not anticipate. I'm not even going to try and explain what I meant by that. God, now you got me. That's not what I meant.
Someone clips it.
No, don't do it.
Clip it so I can put it on Instagram. Do it.
That is not what I meant. No. So
I'm sorry,
Luke, son of a gun. It depends on what you mean by hardcore. Do you mean like getting sweaty, doing PvP, stuff like that? Like if that's what hardcore means to you, then I will pull away from the hourglass conversation and focus more on adventure. If you only have an hour to play with your friends and you want to jump into Sea of Thieves, first thing, don't grab supplies on the island. Screw that. Just go grab your ship. They've got more supplies on them now. Just go out, raise anchor, drop sails, go out. Don't worry about getting supplies. Don't worry about buying crates or anything like that. Sea forts are 30 minutes to sail out to the nearest sea fort, kill it. And this is from a solo perspective too, because this is my lunch break and I have a ship that's called just on lunch break. I will jump on, raise anchor, drop sail, head to the nearest sea fort. 30 minutes, I can get that cleared out, get all the loot stacked on my ship and sell it in that 30 minutes. So sea forts are a perfect way to quickly go and do something to get you a decent amount of loot to be able to have some fun in there. If you've got a captain ship, you have access to different levels of voyages. So buy some low level voyages, buy some high level voyages. When you only have about an hour or so to do, jump on your captain ship, raise anchor, don't grab supplies, throw down one of the lower level voyages, go out, knock it out, get the completions, get the miles, and then come back, turn it in. Real simple, real easy. You just have to. Sea of Thieves is really good at distracting you. If you've got ADHD, it is a miserable game to try and like focus on just one thing, because it's really good at pulling your attention away for other little things, whether it be PvE, PvP. It's really good at that. But sea forts are a fantastic thing to do with your friends. It gives you a little bit of combat, gets you a little bit of loot, and you can do 1 or 2 in an hour easy.
Rune, I'll also say, because Logan probably won't do this himself. One of the things that I found when I get out of Sea of Thieves and I want to get back in, I'll go listen to Logan's show Keelhauled, which is genuinely fantastic. I'm not saying to butter your bread, but it's just a genuinely great show. And I find that that gets me excited to want to go in and try whatever he's talking about, whether it's the adventure, which is the story component, whether it's a tall tale, which is a different type of story component, whether it's go to a sea fort. They've even added in short-term PvP in season 8, which my crew and I need to try because we're behind a little bit because we talked about that live service. You know, we so many, just like you, Rune. We pick a few live services and go at various times, but we've maxed our battle passes in Halo and COD. So like, probably we are going to go in and do season 8. Yeah, there's a lot to do in Sea of Thieves that is worth your time, that is short term now, that didn't exist before. But Logan's right. And give Keelhauled a listen, guys. It's genuinely just a great show.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. You were popular this week, Logan, because Xbox Mike 29, who is awesome, shout out to him. He has a question for you also related to Sea of Thieves. He wants to know what the worst island in Sea of Thieves is and why is it Old Faithful and not Crooked Mass? I'm sure this is not an inside joke of any kind. Please keep your answer limited to 30 minutes because, good Lord, I have to pee.
Okay, so the worst island is not Old Faithful. Old Faithful is not that bad. The worst island is actually going to be, I'm going to say Wanderer's Refuge, because the top portion of that is almost impossible to discern when you're trying to dig up anything. Other than that, it might actually be Thieves Haven, even though I absolutely love Thieves Haven. Old Faithful, y'all need to figure out what north, south, east, west is. Because it's a pancake island. It's just tall. You just have to go up, but it's all flat on the top. So I don't know. Crooked masts, snakes. You've got tons of snakes everywhere. The stupid island is covered in snakes. There's barely any place to run around without getting spit on and dying from that. The AI spawns everywhere. There's a beacon that I hate that everyone like has to shoot up to do stuff on Halloween events and stuff like that. There's Grey Marl with little to no area. It's a horrible island. I don't know why anyone is not like completely hating on Crooked Masts, because it's just I hate that island. It's so bad. But Mike, thank you for the question. I appreciate it. It is definitely not Old Faithful.
I get annoyed by Thieves Haven map digs because they're really complicated, but I like the island a lot, if that makes sense.
It's beautiful, but yeah, digs suck on that island.
Yeah, they do. They do. I think we have one more question here that we didn't get to during the show proper. This one comes from Mr. Kevin Ainsworth. Shout out to him. Thank you for your support on Patreon as well, my friend. And shout out to Save Game Media. He does a great show over there, Project X Talk. You guys should give it a listen. Kevin says, if you had to choose who at the moment is Xbox's best first-party studio, I think we see this kind of question come up a lot just in our community. For me, despite me not playing many of their games, it's Obsidian because they put out banger after banger. And I don't play Obsidian games by nature. Like, those aren't my go-tos, right? Outer Worlds and Pentiment aren't my jam, but the quality is undeniable. For me, it's Obsidian. I like that Tango Gameworks really had a good old hit with Hi-Fi Rush. They kind of put themselves into that conversation a bit. I think consistently it comes up that Playground puts out top-notch stuff, as does Turn 10. But those are niche because they're driving. And I say niche not to downplay. It's not like the numbers are bad, but like driving is driving. You know what I mean? Pentiment and Outer Worlds and Avowed and all those are all different experiences across their pantheon. Interesting to me that consistently 343, the Coalition, are left out of this conversation. Interesting, not dissing them. I'm just saying it's interesting. There you go. What about you? Best first party.
I'm really surprised you didn't go with Undead Labs. It's just a really surprising.
Love State of Decay. I love State of Decay. I'm really excited for State of Decay 3. But the problem with State of Decay always, since day one, has been a AA studio. Buggy, but great experience, dedicated community. I was part of that community for a long time. And I love State of Decay, but they've always punched above their weight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They were an Xbox 360 exclusive, but on 360. State of Decay 2, great, tons of cool expansions. I met that team at E3 2019. I've always wanted to interview them. They are so cool. They make such great things, but like State of Decay 3's expectations are high. It's not what you asked, not even your joke, but I love State of Decay. I just want to point it out.
It's it's funny. Do you consider like the Bethesda studios in this though, when you're thinking about like the normal like Xbox first party? Because we're talking like id Software, Arcane, Bethesda, and stuff. Like, do you usually think about them when you're thinking like first party Microsoft? Because technically they are at this point.
I have not. I have to catch myself. Right. I now think of Obsidian. Thanks to Hi-Fi, I think of Tango, but Ghostwire obviously just came out last year and is coming to Xbox in March. I have to catch myself. I don't think of them yet. Like id Software, when their next game hits exclusively, I will think of id as an Xbox studio. When Starfield hits, I will think of what's the one that's making it? Bethesda Soft?
Bethesda,
like what's the
yeah.
I know it's Bethesda, but like, Bethesda can be an umbrella or a studio, depending on your conversation.
Bethesda Game Studios is the one that's working like for sure.
So like when the Xbox exclusive hits, then they transfer in my mind. I think that's how it works because Tango never was exclusive until Hi-Fi. Now I'm like, yeah, Tango's really good. You know what I mean? Like it's just funny how that happens. But yeah. I love Doom. I love Doom classics. I love Doom 3, the horror one. I love I really like Doom 64, even though it's terrible. I love Doom as a franchise. I love Doom 2016, Doom Eternal. I love that. I love him in Fortnite. When we get the Xbox exclusive version, suddenly it will be an Xbox studio for me, but it's not right now.
Interesting. Okay.
But I'll tell you what, it's a damn travesty that in Halo Infinite, Hello Live Service Team, why don't we have Doomslayer armor? Why doesn't that happen? Why don't we have Gears armor in Halo? Make that happen, yo. You want money, you want return, you want engagement, bring that shit.
Cross-pollination.
Yeah, do it. What is your deal?
I'm okay. So best studio out there. I recognize, and maybe I'm a little too close to the fire on this one because I'll most likely get burned on this. But it's hard for me to recommend Rare because I know all of the faults that that Sea of Thieves has. But I really do think that I would say Forza is probably the best studio next. See, it's tough because Coalition is continuing to put out fantastic games. The games are probably some of the highest quality games I've seen for a third-person shooter with a story. Story aside, people may not agree that it's the best story, but it is an amazing game. I really do think that Obsidian is coming out swinging with their smaller teams, and they are working on games that I think a lot of people are really enjoying, which is why I think the diversity of their titles is what really draws a lot of attention to why they are one of the top studios. But I mean, God, like looking at the Forza stuff that we got at the developer direct, like, I mean, I really do feel like they are kind of Playground Games is like, and they're going to be doing the next Fable. I think they're probably the top right now because they're just, it's polished. It's nothing but polished.
Nothing but I agree with you, but I think until you break the mold of just racing, you don't get into that conversation, even if that's not a fair thing. I don't think that's a fair thing.
I have to point out because Gears is just doing Gears. Halo is just doing Halo. Mm-hmm. If those were, absolute killers in the marketplace, would you have the same perspective, or is it biased because it's racing?
I think it's biased with racing, but I also think it's reality. And I don't know that I'm not trying to lament them because God knows I love Forza, right?
Yeah.
It's not me lamenting. I'm thinking of mind share amongst the people. Maybe I'm off base though. Like, then again, that's listeners write in and tell me, but like, do people outside of my community, what I'm seeing on my timelines, do they think of Turn 10 or Playground as the elite of the Xbox, or do they think of them as incredible racing studios? You see what I'm saying? Like, I don't know.
Such a dig. It's such a subtext.
It's a douchey dig, and I don't like it. Like, I'm not advocating the position. I'm saying I think that's what happens.
Yeah,
like Game of the Year conversations, right?
Don't get into the Game of the Year discussions. But you're not wrong, and I hate that.
Yeah, but I hate it too.
I'm going to put Playground as mine because I love Obsidian. I had friends that work there. I think Obsidian does fantastic job with the games. The community team does like a Wednesday stream for charity where they do stupid stuff to their faces all the time, and it's all on stream, and they just play games and try and raise money for charities. Like, Obsidian is a really good studio, but as far as like the best studio for Xbox right now, as far as like games go, Playground, man, they do not everything they've been putting out for the last couple of years has just been polished. And you can't deny it.
Good points. Can't argue any of that. Oh, man, Logan. This was great. Excellent episode, my friend.
I'm wiped.
I'm wiped too. But like, what a great January we've had for news, for Xbox, for talking points, for XEP, both in you and I getting together to kind of not relaunch, but like this is the next step of XEP. We've had a full month under our belts. We've got interviews coming up. The Xbox wrap-up is going to launch this month now that we're in February. Dude, congrats to us. Congrats to
congrats
you.
To you.
No, you. No, you. Oh, man. I could not be happier. Oh, you're right. I don't know whose idea it was. But I am so happy, and I would love for people to continue to write in. Remember, you can email me insipidghost@gmail.com. I do read your emails, and I appreciate you. You can find me on all the socials at InsipidGhost. You can check out the interviews on their own feed at youtube.com/Xbox Expansion Pass. And of course, you're listening to the show, so you found it somewhere. It's on all your podcast services. It means the world that you guys share the show. It means the world when you let us know that you like the show, that you give us feedback. I got a lot of really good constructive feedback about, hey, try doing this with your Patreon. Hey, don't forget to include a link in your link tree. Like, people have been helping me out over the last few weeks of making XCP better, and it's been constructive, and I thank you all for it. Supporting us there, whether it's on Patreon or just sharing, it means the world. So thank you guys. Logan, let me know what you got upcoming with Keelhauled, where we can find you on socials, etc.
Oh man. So if you guys want to hit me up, because we talked about a lot, but just a quick little reminder, I definitely want to find out if anyone wants to be jumping into some multiplayer action with like Ghostbusters. That'd be fun. I would love to see if anyone wants to jump into Aliens Fireteam or Back 4 Blood, and any of those games. If you guys are curious, I'd definitely love to hear about it. If you want to get a hold of me, I'm over on Twitter at CAPT_LOGUN. My bio's got links to Keelhauled. It's got links to other Twitter accounts that I manage for that kind of content too. Keelhauled, we're going to be talking about the announced community day. If you're a fantasy of Thieves and you want the best flintlock pistol skin that's ever been released, February 11th is community day, and they're going to be doing the giveaway for the flintlock pistol for that. And it's one of the few pistols that actually has an iron sight, which is amazingly important in Sea of Thieves because there's no reticle. So it really does help you aim. But we're going to be talking about Community Day. They're going to be bumping up all of the multiplayers for all of the reputations, all of the gold, all of that stuff. So Keelhauled's going to be coming out this week with news and information about where you need to go to get all of that stuff and how you can participate with the community, because I love the community. It's fantastic. So definitely keep an eye out for that. Just search for Keelhauled in any of your podcatchers or Sea of Thieves podcast. You'll see mine.
Well, that's going to be it from us, guys. Look forward to some more interviews on the way. Take care.